What's up guys, I'm Kai, and in this video I'm going to take you through what you need to look for when choosing the best parkour and freerunning shoes for you. So the main reason I'm making this video is because it's the message that I get all the time, is what shoes do I wear? And I kind of feel like it's not important what shoes that I wear, but it's more important what shoes suit you best. So there are three main things to look for when choosing a parkour shoe. You want to look for the grip, the amount of cushioning there is, and also the durability of the shoe. These are the three most important things, but there are other little aspects as well that we'll cover in the video. So we're going to start with grip. So grip for freerunning is a little bit different than grip for hiking, for example. When I started off parkour, I thought the most grippy shoe would be like a hiking boot or something like that, because they have those raised surfaces with like the kind of teeth almost in the bottom of the rubber. But actually, how it works is it's friction on the surface. And because we're not out in the outdoors, we're actually in an urban environment where most surfaces are pretty flat. You want to maximize the amount of friction you're getting against those flat surfaces. So you're looking for a kind of a flat piece of rubber that covers the whole of the toe section, because that's maximizing the amount of friction you're getting on the surface the whole time. Alternatively, you get a lot of trainers that have these kind of sectioned rubber soles, and as you can see that you really run the risk of ripping off a section of the rubber if you're having any horizontal cuts through the rubber. So if you're getting a sectioned sole, if you found a pair of trainers that you think is almost perfect but they have a sectioned sole, as long as the sections are vertical along the shoe, then that's not a problem. But if the sections are horizontal, there's a really good chance you're going to rip off the rubber like this, and it's just going to ruin the shoe really quickly. So the second thing we're going to look at is cushioning. Now this is where personal preference really comes into play. You'll find a lot of people like training in a zero drop shoe, which is a shoe with zero cushioning at all. Whereas some other people would choose to train in a shoe with a much bigger heel and much more padding on the feet. And this is just down to personal preference depending on how they train and what they train. If you want to really work on technique in like parkour style movements, you want to work on your touch and control, then I definitely recommend going with a lower drop shoe. But for a beginner or anyone who's practicing with a lot of impact and their technique isn't quite there yet, I would definitely recommend having a bit more protection just in case you under rotate a somersault, or if you have a kind of sketchy landing. It's going to help to protect your foot. The main thing to look at when cushioning is you want to look at the foam density, and you want to look at how much foam that is as well. So if you take these for example, these are a zero drop shoe, so there is no foam in there at all. The foam on the outside here is just purely for look, but actually the sole itself is just rubber, and then there's the insole of the shoe itself. So it's very, very thin, but great for feeling what the ground is like underneath you. Great for training your control and touch to make sure you're absorbing impact correctly. So these are great for training technique, but I wouldn't recommend really thin shoes for just your average day-to-day training, because you might damage your foot long term. These are kind of the perfect example of a mid amount of cushioning that you'd want to go for. You see in the ball of the foot there's a very small amount of foam, and there's a full flexibility in the shoe, so you have full touch and control while still having a little bit of shock absorbency there. There's also a slightly raised heel, which is going to help protect your heel on those missed landings where you're landing on the back of your foot, but not so much that you're going to feel like you're standing in high heels. Also, it's important to think about, again, that consistency of the foam. If you can squeeze it with your fingers and it has some compression in it, then that's pretty much the ideal amount of shock absorbance. You want it a bit soft, but not so soft that it's going to do nothing for you, but also not so hard that you're not going to be able to feel anything, and you're not going to be able to get that flexibility you need in your foot. Both types of shoes have their pros and cons, but the main thing to avoid here is too much cushioning and too dense of a foam. So if a foam's too soft, that's not as much of an issue, but if a foam is too dense, you're not going to get much control, you're not going to get much feel through the ground, and it's going to affect your training and your technique progression in the future. So the final thing we're going to cover is durability, and with durability kind of comes the weight category as well. Generally speaking, the more durable a shoe is, the more it's going to weigh, because there's more protection on it and that's more material. Now, again, we're going to go back to the sole. So when you're looking for your rubber sole, you want to try and make sure it's a unisole piece of rubber, because as you can see on the segmented version, you rip it apart. So it's not the ideal situation. If it is segmented, again, look for the vertical separations, not the horizontal, because they'll stand the test of time. But the ideal situation is, of course, going with that unisole piece of rubber that guarantees you perfect amount of grip as well as good durability. When it comes to the top of the shoe itself, this is where the weight really comes into play. If you go with a mesh shoe, it's going to be a lot lighter. But if you go with a thin mesh like on this shoe, where the mesh is really thin, there's a very good chance it's going to tear if you drag your toe on a climb up. Even though it's protected by suede, eventually the suede will crack and it'll get through to the mesh and rip the mesh up. Or it's going to catch on the seams across here and undo the seams, and then the whole shoe is going to fall apart. Alternatively, if you look at the mesh on this shoe, it's a lot more durable, it's multiple layered, and it's designed to take quite a lot of force and strain. So that's a lot more durable without increasing too much weight. Alternatively, you have these shoes that have a rubber covering over the top of the front. These shoes, even though they're zero drop and are a lot smaller, they actually weigh more than these shoes. So you pay for that durability with an increased weight. So I think my final tip is, if you can, get into a shoe store, try the shoes on, get in there and feel what the material is like, make sure it's exactly what you want. Try and avoid buying any shoes online that you haven't tried before, or one of your friends hasn't tried before, where you can't check that they're good. So I hope you guys found the video informative and you learned a few things. Make sure you subscribe to Storm for more content and click that little bell button to get a notification every time you upload a new video. Also, let me know in the comment section down below what shoes you're wearing for parkour at the moment. And check out the link in the description down below to our shop, where you can buy Storm Freerunning clothing and help to support us make more videos like this.